Hello everybody, welcome to another deck tech for Eternal. I'm really excited to show off this one. It's honestly a deck that I was playing on stream and I started trying to put in a lot of set 4 cards, making a Bloodrite Kalis deck, and as time went on, I kept cutting out set 4 cards and the deck kept getting better. And it got down to the point where I only had one set 4 card. I changed it a little bit again, and we're going to be running a bunch of merchant cards instead, because it's actually performing, I think, a slight bit better with merchants. But here's the deck. It's Bloodrite Kalis. That's right, it's back. This deck has been doing really, really well. As in, I've had an insane win rate on it on stream. I've only played about like 25 games. I would like to get like 100 or so before I actually go to percentages of win rates. But it did bring me from Diamond 2 into Masters at the end of the month. And it also has just had like a 80-90% win rate over the last like 25-30 games or whatever I've played with it. It's been really, really good. I'm not expecting that to stay up. That's an insane win rate. That's not a kind of thing that you can expect. But it shows, I think, that the deck has some legs to it right now. So what we're looking at, if you've never seen it before, is a Bloodrite Kalis deck. Bloodrite Kalis had a few brief decks back in the past, especially during like set 1, a little bit during set 2. There were some times where it looked like it might be good, and then it always kind of ended up being like a tier 2 kind of weird outside horse type deck. It's a really, really fun card though. So Bloodrite Kalis is a relic weapon that you sacrifice all of your units when you play it, but it gets +2/+2 for each unit sacrifice. So it's a 0/0 when it comes out. You can't play it if you don't have any units. It'll just go to your void. But we have a bunch of really cool ways to make a ton of units. So you have Grenadin drones, Spark Catchers, you have assembly line, all the kind of regular things to be making a bunch of units. Torrent of spiders to get a whole bunch of spiders once you've used the Bloodrite Kalis or you've done a bunch of chump blocking. You've got some Scraptanks. And you have a real throwback to set 1, one that hasn't been seen in a while. You've got Shadowlands Guide, which can pull back either spiders from Torrent of Spiders, or like Grenadins that you make off of things like the Granite Waystones or the assembly lines. Or ideally, the #1 card that you want to get back is Grenadin Drone itself, because then that gives you 2 creatures. So you're just able to pull that back, and it'll immediately summon another Grenadin again. So you're going to try and do all of that, make a whole bunch of tokens, and use that to constantly feed your Bloodrite Kalis. So you can get really, really aggressive. I've had a few games where you go turn 1 Grenadin Drone, turn 2 Grenadin Drone, turn 3 attack for 4, play a Bloodrite Kalis, and then attack for 8. And that's just sick. You can make an 8/8 Kalis on turn 3 really, really easily with just a couple of Grenadin Drones. So there's some really sweet starts to this deck. What I've added in for set 4 cards is the Ixtun Merchants. I didn't want to put in the Shadow Merchants because I think that the Fire cards are just a little bit more important. And any of the cards that we really, really want tend to be both colors. And I wanted to go this route. So we're running Ixtun Merchant. We've got, as our market, Boar, which I'm not entirely certain about. This one's probably the one that's most likely to be replaced. It might even just be something like a Torch. Get a 4th Torch in there. Just have a little bit of extra removal when you need it. I don't know where the meta is going to settle in if you need Relic Hate, but I thought that I'd include it there anyways. All the rest of the cards I think that I'm pretty set on. I had Honor the Ancestors as one of the cards in the main deck until I made these changes. And then we have Combust, which is just really important at certain points to get rid of flyers. The deck is still fairly weak to flyers. You have things like Bloodrite Kalis, you have Combust, you have Madness, Combust kind of, or like Devour strategies, but you really, really want a way to kill very key flying units at different points, because you can't beat like an Unseen Commando turn after turn. It's too good at racing you, it's too good at defending, and it can just keep attacking in over and over and over, and you don't have a real way to block it. So Combust is pretty important in a lot of different points, and having an extra, 3 copies because you're cutting 1 from the deck is sweet. So you basically have 7 copies in your deck. We also have Honor the Ancestors, which is a really sweet way to use Kalis. So Kalis gets absolutely massive, like we talked about, where you can make like an 8/8 Kalis pretty early, or even get it at like 14/14. I've had like 20/20 Kalises, and sometimes that'll happen where they have like a banish, or you just actually keep smashing enough things that it goes away. Well, if that happens, you can Honor the Ancestors, get it back, and you get it back as a 20/20, so you don't need any units, And if you have units, you can make it way bigger than that. So it can get really, really busted when you play it back out of the void. So Honor the Ancestors is a cool way to use that. And it's fairly easy to get Tribute in this deck with all the different ways that we have to sacrifice things. Devours and Combusts and other Kaluses and things like that. We have one of the Bloodrite Kaluses in here as well. You don't want to have more than one Kalus most of the time, but it's really important to get the first one. So we put it in the market just to make sure that we can get it consistently. And then for really long games when you need like an extra punch, we put in a Gearcruncher so that we can just turn the tide and get right back into a game where we probably wouldn't have a chance. Because there's going to be, most of our boards, we're going to be able to fill all of our board with a Gearcruncher if we actually have 7 power in play. So that's our market. The rest of the main deck, we've got those Bloodrite Kaluses like I talked about. We've got all these different token makers like the Scraptanks, the Shadowlands Guide, Hatchers. Basically, all of our units are made to make a bunch of tokens, except for Ixtun Merchant, and Merchant is kind of important for all these other things. The rest of the deck is our removal and our ways to get it a little bit more consistent. So we're only running 25 power, so we do run a few Vara's favors, so we can try and make sure that we get extra power and it's a little more consistent. It's also nice to pick off things like Oni Ronins and all those kinds of things. If we need to be aggressive early, it can be pretty good. A lot of times you just attack Grenadin drones into 2/2s and then you Vara's favor them off. Things like Grip Knife Assassin, stuff like that. Then we also have the necessary for Quarry. Quarry is absolutely amazing in this deck. It's really, really good to put things like drones and Spark Hatchers into your Void while drawing cards that are really key. Like there's a lot of times you can imagine you get a Quarry, you reveal, say, like a Hatcher and a Bloodrite Kalus. You get the Kalus, Hatchers in your yard, and it helps power up things like your Gearcrunchers later, or being able to put a drone in the yard and get it back with Shadowlands Guide. You can do a lot of cool things like that. So Quarry is just really awesome. Good, consistent draw. We have, obviously, the assembly lines to make tokens. Madness is just a must-have. We've got 4 Devours. We've got Combusts. We also have the Bloodrite Kalus itself, which sacrifices things. So if you have 6 power, you can also Madness, steal their unit, and then play Bloodrite Kalus and have it sacrifice. And then, of course, the Torrent of Spiders, like we talked about, to make all those extra little tokens. It can get absolutely massive. Most of the time, you'll get 3 out of it. A lot of the times, later in the game, you can get 4, 5, even 8. I've had really, really huge Torrents in this deck. And then, you know, kind of standard for power. We've got a bunch of Shadow Sigils, and I might actually go down and play 1 more Fire, but it's been really consistent for me. We've got all of the different double cost ones, and it's been really easy to get the power that I need. Granite Waystone is a must-have, because having the extra Grenadins are really, really nice. People will ask why I don't run Amethyst Waystone. It's really not necessary. It's card draw, yes, but it's also card draw for your opponent, and it makes things like Seed of Chaos less consistent as an undepleted source, so there's just really no reason to have it. Makes things like Vara's favor worse, because you have less sigils to draw out. There's just really no reason to run a bunch of Amethyst sigils or Amethyst Waystones in my mind. So that's our deck. It's been really, really good for me so far, and I hope to show it off today, so let's get to the games.